Welcome to this video. This is round 7. Yes, 7, no? Of the Gashimov Memorial Tournament played in Shamkir, Azerbaijan. Let's get going. And I'm going to use the new sorting order, but this time alphabetical reversed. So yeah, starting with Vashela Graf and going to end with Vishy Anand. Let's get going there. And we got D4 opening via transposition here. MVL against Giri. Let's see. The Rogozin. Yeah, very popular opening. It it's quite surprising how often this is played. It seems to be in a very good theoretical state at the moment. It is a mixture of the Queen's Gambit declined and the Nimzo in a way. And what it does, and I am considering to take that up as well. I have played this opening actually in the 90s, but pretty much forgotten about it. Well, it's a good mixture of solid play, but still it's a bit more active than, let's say, the Queen's Gambit declined, which at times is a bit stodgy. This is a bit more active. Yeah, let's see. White exchange. Bishop g5, and yeah, here black already has a choice. Can go h6, knight bd7, castle c5, number of options. This was played by Giri, one of the possible move orders. And now queen c2. It's a slight twist to e3, but we get an interesting position now. Giri goes for g5. Yeah, a move that is quite clearly weakening black's king side, but also activates quite a bit. The knight jumps to e4, and this has a very direct idea. If white is now not reacting, he went knight d2, which is something that I would call reacting, attacking this knight. If he's not reacting, let's say, and goes e3, then black's idea comes into play, h5. Yeah, crude but effective, threatening h4 with a bishop trap. Yeah, if white is now again not paying attention to anything, he's going to simply get his bishop trapped. A motif to pay attention to. If you allow that as white, you are really almost, you're in trouble. You have to be very, very precise now to not get into huge difficulties. Quite often white feels obliged to play the h-pawn, which quite obviously is terrible from a structural point of view. This is really really a garbage position for white. So white has to be alert, and he played knight to d2. Yeah, it's also all well known. If you see the clock times, it was nothing that was new to both players. So black now takes the bishop and goes for knight b6 and c6. So we have a Karlsbad exchange, Queen's Gambit exchange structure, this typical structure, but the twist is black has got the bishop pair, but he has weakened himself quite a bit with this formation on the king side. So it's not so obvious how black is going to, let's say, place his king. Sometimes he castles long even. The most important thing about this h6 g5 thing is that f5 is very much weak, but f5 at the moment can only be occupied by a white bishop, and this is not so terrible. It would be much more of a problem if white would be able to get a knight there, but this is not easy. Or g3, for example, which could be a place for a knight. There's a pawn. So this is a finely balanced position. Bishop f8 is interesting. Black is toying with the idea to maybe fianchetto, late fianchetto on g7, which would also shore up the king side quite a bit. Okay, b4, a5, b5, and c5. Yeah, so, okay, well, bishop g7 might have been an idea. This now is not relevant, as white with b4 has initiated play very early on the queen side. And, well, black, this a5, b5, c5 maneuver is a pretty standard way to meet this minority attack on the queen side, because black now has the nice square on c5 and possibly c4, the right circumstances for his knight. I think this is about balance, this position. I think black can be satisfied here. Went a4, fixing this a3 pawn, bishop e2, queen f6. Yeah, this is to prepare short castles, and this happened now. Yeah, white has absolutely no attack there on the h-file. Yeah, he has only one rook there, and you cannot double or castle long or whatever. It's very difficult to imagine, so white just castle short. And we have now a strategic battle where white is arguing that d5 might be a bit weak, yeah, but black has good protection there. That d5 might be a bit weak, also f5 might be a bit weak, yeah, so there are some weaknesses that white can point at. On the other hand, black has two bishops and attacks the a3 pawn all of the time. I think that this is a very well played logical game, which is in the balance all the time. Queen d1, interesting, yeah, looking at this possibly weakish pawn and trying to maybe play bishop g4, trading off light squared bishops. Queen e5 is a good centralizing move, and now bishop d3. I had expected bishop g4 when I saw this queen d1 move, but it turns out that if we look at this, that the trade on e2, or trade of the e2 bishop, also has weakened the c4 square quite a bit, and all of a sudden black's knight is invading there and is really looking at this weak pawn on a3. This is surprisingly awkward for white. I mean, white can play something like knight to f5, and looking threatening in a way, but it's nothing's going on. Yeah, black can play, let's say, queen f6 to shore up h6 and possibly this move in the mix. White really has nothing here. He has to be quite cautious that he's not losing the a3 pawn. So bishop g4 didn't lead to anything. Yeah, bishop to d3 then. Bishop d7, bishop c2. Yeah, white is trying to grab the a4 pawn, and he managed to do that. But this is nothing special. We see with this series of trades, rook head to capture, yeah, queen takes, rook a4. Black gets this pawn back, and this now is a really static pawn formation where white can only try to play with this queen d3 idea, yeah, trying to invade there on h7. This is why black Giri is going for rook a3, blocking the third rank or controlling the third rank so that queen d3 is not on. And this basically robs white of any ambitious plan. It's quite clear that with such active pieces here, black can never be worse. Yeah. But it's also difficult for him to do anything, as white's structure is also very, very sound. So we got this trade and this trade in. And right here, I briefly thought, oh wait, maybe white can do something. You have queen and knight against the somewhat weakened king position. Queen and knight are a notoriously dangerous attacking duo. But the problem is that in this particular situation, the black b-pawn is providing very serious counterplay, and there's also the issue that the white knight, while looking nice on e4, is not very stable. You don't have a very stable square for it. White also doesn't manage, if we look at this queen e5, yeah, it's directly attacked. White also does not manage to get to a situation where he can maybe like reroute the knight, and g4, knight g3, knight f5, this kind of thing. That would be nice, but well, it takes time. One move, two moves, three moves, and all of a sudden b5, b4, b3, and it gets very scary for white. So if you shuffle around or maneuver around on the king side, you might just get killed by the b-pawn. The logical result really of all this is that black's bad king position is ultimately leading to something which is a perpetual, or like here, a total equality. Yeah, I think this was a very logical and pretty much, yeah, understandable game how it went, and it shows that this opening is really quite interesting. Yeah, black never got into any trouble. Yeah, and he got the bishop pair early on, And a situation like that is really quite interesting to play. I know it turned out to be a draw, but this is not a very, it's not a dull position. There are still ideas and things to try if the other side is making mistakes. Okay, next game is Mamedov. Pretty similar names, have to be cautious there. Let's get going. Where is this game? Let me load it. Okay, and we got Semi-Slav. Mamedov playing the Semi-Slav. Not one of his regular openings, yeah, but it seems that he really has prepared stuff for this event in particular. He's a King's Indian guy normally. I have played King's Indian with white against his King's Indian in Blitz games, I think. Not sure that they're on the channel, but he's got a long history of playing on the ICC. So it's a bit unusual to see that from him. Yeah, I have to admit that of this opening, we have the anti-Moscow. This is the Moscow variation of the Semi-Slav, and Bishop h4 is the anti-Moscow. That this is a line that I never really studied or even vaguely understood. So it's a bit difficult for me to give any substantial advice on this. The line basically starts here with the parting of the ways. This is what I know. Bishop e2 is by far the main move, but white has tried other things, h4, queen c2, and so on. The general outline of this line is that white, with bishop h4, has initiated a pawn sacrifice. White is a clean. He's a pawn down, not getting it back quickly. But on the other hand, black needed to play both g5 and b5. And yeah, this is a long-standing or a long-known thing in chess. If you combine b5 and g5, it will be difficult to get a safe king position. So black always has this issue with his king long term, but it's a pawn. And one thing in particular to mention is that as long as there is this construction here, the white bishop is also not a very active piece. All this was all the rage, let's say, in the late 2000s. Yeah, 2008 match between Kramnik and Arnold, for example, featured that. Both players played it with switching colors. But it has been not as popular recently. But I'm not informed about the theory here. Bishop e2 is normal. This is what I know. And knight bd7. Yeah, black's main move is bishop b7, I think. But this also has been tried. The big difference between two moves is that with knight bd7, white is now able to play d5, which is not possible after bishop b7. Yeah, it gets very, very sharp now. C takes, e takes, knight c5. Yeah, all kinds of stuff is hanging. b5 is hanging. Black is attacking the d5 pawn. Yeah, and what does he play? He doesn't really look at those. I mean, what about this knight b5? Let's just briefly check. Yeah, okay, black has the check and probably will take. Or with the knight, I don't know. Yeah, it's super tactical, but I couldn't really catch up with the theoretical developments here of recent years. So I'm just going to say that what the next move here, Mamedyarov's next move, bishop e5, is a novelty, at least according to my pretty big database. It's fairly logical. Yeah, you get on this diagonal here, pinning the knight, and it's not so easy for black to play now. To be perfectly honest, black is in trouble really quickly here in this game, and without investing hours on trying to understand what was happening here, and from the theoretical point of view, I cannot really tell where the problems begin. I totally dislike black's position, is what I have to say. So it's a bit difficult for me. I looked at this opening, the Semi-Slav, quite a bit, but I never really liked this line for black, because you never have a safe king, which is kind of a problem for me. And also here, I totally dislike black's position, but it's probably not that bad, objectively speaking. The comp already gives white an advantage here, but we're talking about a position that has been played quite a bit. Bishop e5 is new, as mentioned, but it's not a total backwater of theory. Yeah, black played bishop g7. This is kind of normal looking. What else is there? It's looks very logical. And now queen d4. And this is one problem. Yeah, white is developing here with a tempo, centralizing the queen, and black doesn't have much choice. Yeah, knight d3 check. That's kind of clear. White takes castles. And now, well, white is just far better developed. He has the better structure for just one pawn. And what about black's king position here? That all looks like a mess. So he castled. And Mamedyarov went knight e4. Yeah, that is also quite the obvious move, trying to increase the pressure there on the diagonal. Yeah, and now I think the next move gets black into really substantial trouble. I think he already is in some trouble, but he now took on e4, and that doesn't seem to be working at all. I can tell you what the computer suggests, and it looks sick. The computer wants to play the knight and allow this to happen, which looks horrible for a human being, right? Allowing the knight there on f6, and if you just magically transfer white's queen to h6 is checkmate, or a rook for that matter, which, okay, seems even more fairy tale like, but well, it's close to checkmate, right? The black king is looking very strange, and white is also better here in this position, but at least the comp says it's better than what he did, and this is probably true, but because what he did is leading to disaster, really. Bishop g7. Yeah, and now what is it that you should play? The rook is hanging, and the question is really, should you already give up the exchange as black? He played e5, trying to keep the exchange. Problem is, if you move rook e8, the simplest looking option, then white is just grabbing here and threatens mate there on g7. And black has no defense that is in any way satisfactory. He can play this, yeah, like. But this is a disaster. Yeah, white is much better here. You get the pawn there, and well, you pawn up, and you're just much better anyway. Yeah, this position would be worth a pawn probably, and you're pawn up on top of it. So, well, black had to go for something like that. e5, bishop takes. That was the idea. Yeah, if queen takes, rook e8 is surprisingly unclear. Yeah, that's in fact. This kind of idea is still about playable. It's not looking great, but it's playable. This is much better though, just taking the pawn. And now we see the big problems there. The knight hangs, black has no king position, d3 hangs. Yeah, he went bishop f5. That's the relatively best move. And yeah, now Mamedyarov plays rook a to e1, which is, from its appearance, a bit mysterious. To be honest, it looks far more natural to play rook fe1, but that was rejected. And I'm not totally sure why. It looks like the more natural move to me. And well, the engine does confirm that black is in big trouble. White is just threatening rook takes e4. As simple as that. And what exactly is black going to do? One way to try to defend this, rook c8. The idea is that rook e4 can be answered by rook c4. Nice trick. But after rook c8, white can just take the pawn. We see a similar scenario in the game, but white played rook a to e1, and with the rook on f1, with rooks here, black has knight g3 with a discovered attack on the rook. Sorry for this, rook on f1. And well, this is not possible here. I mean, okay, black can play the move, but I'm just taking here and going to ask you what exactly is your knight doing. So it's a fairly simple business. Rook fe1 just wins the game. After that, black is busted. He has no way out of that. Rook a e1 also seems to be very good for white, but it's probably not as decisive, simply due to the fact that now rook c8 is still a move. Yeah, here taking knight g3 is at least netting black this rook there. So he will be an exchange up for 2 pawns. Even that looks quite good for white, but well, relatively speaking, white has better option. He's still better. He played b3 to cover the c4 square, as rook c4 was in the mix. Yeah, here black went g4. This also seems to give white the chance to win the game right away. Knight c3 is what the engine gives us better, and this is heavily engine produced because the position is so forced. You can really rely on the computer quite a bit there. Bishop g7 is what white can try, attacking the rook, and h6. And this initiates a very long sequence. This is quite funny. Check. Has to take. Yeah, note how unlucky this rook placement was. Rook e1, rook e8, saving the rook for the moment. Bishop h6 and f6. Quite funny. Black is trying to trap the bishop, but white has d6 as a move. And after king h7, there's a really funny sequence. Knight g5, check. King g6, g4. Yeah, good luck in calculating that over the board. But I just want to show a prime example of computer variation. Yeah, and d7 all of a sudden. Yeah, white gets this back. Check. And somewhere around here he will also regain the e2 pawn, which leaves white a pawn up and quite substantially better still. Yeah, interesting line, but this whole line is of course far too deep. Yeah, this is 12 moves just to illustrate what was possible. But it seems knight c3 was a tougher move. After g4, Mamedyarov went bishop h8. And while this looks very promising, it seems that the alternative move rook takes e4 was very much in white's favor. Here black cannot take the knight to start with that due to bishop f6 followed by rook g4. This leads to again to a disaster. Queen b6, check. Important intermediate check. Bishop g6. Yeah, if black takes, check. It's mate on g7. So bishop g6, and now white can take, and d6 is going to be promotion for the d-pawn with a white win, as he has the d-pawn under control. Yeah, so rook e4, it's bishop e4. Yeah, that's the tougher move. But then queen takes, g takes, f3, queen f3 leads to a very, very nice position for white. He's threatening bishop f6 now, and then the check here or here, according to circumstances, with mate on g7. So black really has to play f5, which is, well, not great for the king position. Queen d3, queen d7, let's say, and d6. This type of position. This is really horrible for black. White has 2 pawns, a fantastic dominating bishop on e5 and the d6 pawn. That's terrible. I mean, he can hang on, but white is really substantially better in this position. So rook e4 was very strong. I think that this is not something, I mean, Mamedyarov saw that this rook e4 is a good move. He probably did miscalculate something with bishop h8 that made him believe that this is even better. I mean, the upcoming sequence now is really wacky, but it is sufficient for black. Quite funny enough. f6, yeah, cutting this bishop, and now knight h5. That was the idea. Knight h4, I'm sorry. Yeah, and now black has to play d2. That's the only move that does the trick. If black is retreating, rook e4 is again very, very strong. Yeah, as we see after takes, check. White is coming with this and is in fantastic shape. Yeah, d2 had to be played. Rook takes e4. Yeah, that probably was the plan. Takes, and now queen d7 saves the day. Funny enough, this is looking at those squares using the queen as a defender. And white still has to worry about this d2 pawn. Yeah, it seems that all this is pretty much forced, quite remarkably. Queen d4, looking at the pawn, yeah, trying to get it back. Rook c1, queen d2. Takes, and now queen h7, remarkably. Yeah, the bishop is still alive there. But now the queen is here in a very important spot, covering crucial squares and getting this counterplay idea in. It's a draw. It's really funny. Yeah, it's a draw by this checking mechanism. And white has no way out of that. I mean, what is he supposed to try? Like this?
Check.
And, okay, king takes, but black can do something like that, trying to take it with the rook, and you're arguably playing for a loss here as white. Yeah, that was a really wacky game, really strange game. It seems that Mamedyarov had a couple of chances to try to win, and all this here is very complicated, but I don't want to get too deep into that as we have other games to cover that were arguably more important for the overall standings of the tournament and also interesting. Yeah, white had some chances there, but when he did not take them, Mamedov put up a good calculational effort to save the game. Okay, so next two games, I need to be, what am I doing here? I'm doing reversed alphabetical, right? So let me not screw that up. It's Caruana next. Caruana and Carlsen is pretty close. Okay, Caruana with white playing Wesley. So, let me, my notes. Here are my notes. Okay, let's get going. We have d4. Caruana is really sticking with that in this tournament. Get the Nimzo and knight f3. Yeah, knight f3 is a very flexible choice where black now has a couple of answers. For example, he also has this option, going back to the Rogozin. I'm not sure if So is playing that. I think he does. They all play it. But this time b6 was played. Yeah, mixing the queen's Indian with the Nimzo, one of the main replies. My personal preference here is c5, as I like to play the positions after g3, knight c6. Yeah, playing against g3 I always enjoyed, and this is what mostly happens. The alternative for white is e3 here, the main alternative to g3, which leads to a Rubinstein, where black is totally okay. Just the main line though, it's not that white is giving up anything. Yeah, well, b6. Here white has two or three main choices. The main move probably is bishop g5. This is what Kasparov played a lot in the 80s and 90s. And this is also what led to this line sometimes being called the Kasparov variation. This is also quite sharp. Yeah, black often pushes the bishop away like this, jumps to e4. Quite sharp. But white also has the move e3. This is one of those moves that from first appearance look passive, but they are not. But it is not. The reason is that if we look at this, bishop, he started with knight e4, I'm sorry. I wasn't sure if bishop b7 or knight e4 was played. What white is doing here, he's just delaying the fight a little bit. He fights for the e4 square, and by putting this early pressure on e4, and black had to do something like knight e4. Yeah? If he's sitting still, white plays e4 and has a great center. So it's pretty clear that we get to this structure here with black playing f5. So have a look at this. This is in fact something that is not at all passive for white. With e3, what white is trying to do long term is move this knight from f3. I think, did he start with that? I'm not sure about the move order. No, he played c5, but you can also move the knight away from f3. What white often does is move the knight away to one of those squares, play f3, pushing the knight back, and then try for e4, getting a big center later. Or white has a second option, and this is something that is now played by Caruana, c5. Very interesting. And that's not a very popular move, but I think quite enterprising. What happens if black takes a pawn? He didn't. Yeah, this was played by So. Taking on c5. Yeah, it's a move. It has been played by Vishy Anand, for example. Rook b1, queen c8. This was a game Vichugov Anand from 2013. Bishop a3. This is White's idea. Yeah, he gives up the c5 pawn for the moment, and Black will at some point maybe even being able to take on d4 if the rook has moved. I think this is what Anand did, right? Yeah, he played rook e8. We can put that on the board. Rook e8, and now White actually did take on c5, which is not strictly necessary, but White with c5 tries to open up the position quickly for the bishop pair and for play on the queen side. One reason is that if you go back and look at this position, if White is playing very slowly and not doing much, I mean, sometimes people play relatively harmless stuff like this, let's say. It's not a very sensible move, but what Black often gets is this kind of attacking idea. Rook to g6 and eyeing at this. This is a very dangerous attacking idea. So White should be quick. He shouldn't waste time. And this is a move that definitely does not waste time. It's a very interesting idea. Rook f6, though, was played. And I'm not totally sure about this idea. It looks ambitious, but not sure that it leads to much. White's play is really quick there with knight e1 and now with here rook b1, queen c8, and f3. This is what I'm talking about. With the rook f6 really has this idea to play rook g6 and attack on the long diagonal, but it never materializes. White is just far too quick in the center. Yeah, we have knight g5. And now bishop e2. Yeah, note that White is not interested in capturing on c5. I mean, it's not totally terrible to do that, but he's just arguing that, okay, I don't want equality material-wise with a somewhat rotten pawn structure. I rather have you to take on d4. This is happening now, being a pawn down, but having really, really nice positions for the pieces. Now that there's a d4 pawn instead of two c pawns, for example, the idea knight d, sorry, my mouse is acting up. The idea knight d3 to c5 comes into the play, and this is exactly what happens. I really like White's position here. I think it's quite awkward for Black to play. It's probably not bad for Black in the true sense of the word, but it's difficult to play. It's not easy to handle because you also have two pieces, the knight and the rook, that are somewhat misplaced. You rather have them back on f8 and on f6 maybe, let's say. Yeah, bishop a6. That makes sense. The bishop wasn't doing anything there. Bishop b2, angling for that. And here we come. The bishop is activated. Yeah, White is a pawn down, but he has a very active position. Note that this bishop here on b2, and we will see that also after the trades, we can put this on the board. The bishop on b2 is really, really strong compared to the knight. The knight on e7 has one big issue. It doesn't have a stable outpost square where it can go to and where it can just sit and being protected and fulfilling some kind of useful role. It's really not having a good place to go to. Rook e6 was played, queen d3. Yeah, and now it's possible that around here, so is it's getting into trouble. It's not so easy to determine the precise moment where he starts to struggle. The computer here wants to go rook b8. Yeah, prior to doing this first, I cannot pronounce that word, rook b8. Yeah, the idea is that, well, after here, this is a move that certainly makes you think about rook b8, that the computer just very cold-bloodedly wants to play rook f6. The idea being that, well, that you're ignoring the fact that this is in this diagonal, and this makes the move a bit awkward to play for a human, but there seems to be no particular problem. The computer just says equal. It doesn't see anything terrible happening. I still think that White has a pretty nice position, but it seems to be without any particular short-term drawback. What happened in the game, however, was problematic. He went knight to g6 and after g3, which was quite apparent, I guess, as a reply. It's difficult to keep the pawn there. So he probably had intended to give the pawn back, but it really leads to a problematic situation now. Played rook b8, queen here, rook b6, bishop d4. Yeah, and now we have those trades there. So rooks are traded. Maybe So was just thinking along the lines that that those trades might help him in the defense, but this is really a surprisingly difficult position for black. He has two connected pass pawns, C and D pawn, but it doesn't really help him, simply because the white bishop is so much stronger than the knight, and this is a related feature. White also has chances to attack black's king. Black's king, as those pawns are on the queen side, is only protected by two pawns. And white has this double pawn formation, but this is something that can be quite helpful. Like you can push the f-pawn as an attacking unit, let's say, without compromising your pawn shield of the king. So white is quite substantially better here. Also, there's a very concrete problem, a7 hangs. Yeah, this is why c5 was played. But note that after the check here, black is in trouble. He went c4, which makes the pawns completely immobile. So not a desirable move. But what is it that he should have done? If you look at this king here, oops, with a double attack, very awkward, or king f8, it's the same business. He had to do this, and well, this is very awkward now. The pawns are not marching forward anymore, and white has all the ideas, attacking the king and dominating with his pieces. White is much better here, and there were one or two cases where you can argue that maybe Caruana could have played even more powerful. For example, here there's nothing in particular to say against bishop a7, just taking the pawn. But well, he just kept the pressure on, did not take any bounty yet, let's say.
Check.
And while he's getting this pawn, and still has this huge advantage of the bad black king. Here after queen f7, at least black managed to trade queens. And this, however, is an endgame that is very, very favorable for white, and probably also quite close to winning. I did not look at this in a very, not for a very long time to really figure out if it's just clearly better for white or winning. I think it should be a win. The problem is that if we look at this here, this is happening quite logically, this kind of structure. White is blocking the two pawns, and he has this h4, h5 business. It's a double pawn, I know, but an h pawn appearing combined with the long-range bishop all the way to the promotion square is usually too much for the knight, especially considering that white is always ready to, let's undraw this, always ready to march up and pick up pawns when the h-pawn will be a distraction for king and knight. Yeah, we had a pretty quick finish of this. This is a nice little intermezzo, and those split pawns are far more dangerous than the connected pawns. I think, when did he resign? Yeah, right here. The h pawn is just promoting, or let's say this move is coming up. Both is decisive. So a good win here for Caruana. He's scoring his second win in a row after beating Kramnik the round before, while Wesley So lost his second game of the event. He lost against Anand, and now he lost against Caruana. So he has difficulty with the word so and talking about a game of a player named So. Well, it means that he's now back to a +1 score. Still not bad at all for one of his first super tournaments, but he had this brilliant start with 3.5 out of 4. So a little bit disappointing for sure for him to lose his second game, but a very good game by Caruana. Okay, next game is then, let's go to that, one of the modern classics, let's say, Kramnik playing black here against Magnus Carlsen. So we have world champion 14 against world champion number 16. Let's get going. E4. Okay, so we get the Berlin. No surprise. Very much expected. Okay, D3. As Carlsen usually plays. I'm always surprised that he prefers that move because he's such a great endgame player, but it seems that in the Berlin endgame he also feels that white is not getting anywhere. Okay, bishop c5, which is, I have to say that he also scores excellently with d3, but yeah, I always think that, well, if you're great in the endgame, you probably should try to grind out something out of the Berlin endgame, but he's not doing that so often. Okay, castles. Yeah, little side note is that white can absolutely not grab pawns here. This kind of thing is actually quite favorable for black even. Yeah, black's development is very strong. White cannot snatch all of those pawns. Queen e8 is giving huge counterplay. Oh, a huge counterplay. Black is better, right? Counterplay implies that white has some play. What he did is just, yeah, getting himself into trouble. So just castles. Now, however, black has to attend to the pawn. D6. H3. Yeah, not a move that Carlsen... I think this is new to Carlsen's practice, but it's a known move. And Kramnik now plays knight e7. This is one of the recent developments of, let's say, last 2 or 3 years, to play this very early on in the Berlin, trying to get the knight to g6, play c6, and try to equalize completely. The only way for white forward against that is in many ways d4, and this is what Carlsen played. D4, bishop b6. This is the idea. Black is not giving up on the center right away. His idea is that after d takes e5, black has both knight takes e4 as a possibility, just regaining the pawn immediately. But he can also, oops, that was the wrong button. I'm sorry for that. d4 takes. He can also recapture. That's also a move. d takes e5, because e4 is also hanging, of course. This was played in a game by Sheila Graf against Peter Leko in Beijing last year. So we're dealing with a known position. Let's see. Carlsen went bishop d3, however. Yeah, quite logical, maintaining the central tension. And Kramnik goes with d5. Yeah, very direct way to play, trying to clarify the central situation. Yeah, white shouldn't do that, blundering a piece. d5, knight e4, and also looks really nice for black, I think. Got the knight to e5. To e4, I'm sorry. Yeah, possible bishop f5, knight g6. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I have to get a new mouse. Yeah, that's not really troubling black. Knight d2 looks tougher, and it was quickly played by Carlsen. Takes. E takes d4 by Kramnik, and now queen c2, quickly played. Not the most intuitive of moves, and the quick speed and this was played suggests that that's all preparation. Yeah, Carlsen has played 2 World Championship matches in last 2 years against Vichy Arnold, and I'm not guessing there, but a huge portion of the prep for that matches will probably have been about the Berlin, and you never know. He probably has a couple of ideas in store that never that have not been played yet. Yeah, the same probably applies for Kramnik. Yeah, but in this case, Carlsen gets the move in first. What is the idea about Queen C2? Well, very simple one at first. It looks at the pawn there on H7, and also White quickly tries to get in the rook to D1, trying to say that okay, it's pretty symmetrical. I understand, but if I'm quicker with my rook, your queen might get a bit uncomfortable in the center. Kramnik played H6. Yeah, that is certainly right. We don't want white to take on h7, and g6 is rubbish, so h6 looks fine. And now a4 was played, again quickly played. Yeah, introducing the idea to play a5 quite obviously. Yeah, now Kramnik played c6, still playing relatively quickly. The capture on c3 is a move that white probably, I mean, he had analyzed it anyway, but it's something that also white probably would have welcomed. I couldn't really refute the move in my my analysis here, but it looks very dangerous. Black has to play the very unnatural move queen e8 and now a5 or queen c3. They all net very nice compensation for white. I couldn't find a win, but or something very, very strong for white. But this is the kind of move you really want to avoid if the opponent is blitzing out stuff and clearly knows what he's doing. You rather want to play safe and sound moves and not grab every pawn that's offered to you. c6 is also objectively perfectly fine. c6, rook d1, going on this d file, and now knight d5. Yeah, still played quite quickly by Kramnik. He was not thinking into deep thought though. We have to, by the way, keep in mind that Kramnik lost the last 2 games. Yeah, he lost his game against Mamedyarov and then against Caruana. So certainly he's not in the in the best psychological state probably. Knight d5, knight d4, or normal, and rook e8. All this looks fairly logical. a5 now, very interesting. White is just pushing the a pawn and asking black, okay, well, what is this? Can you take the pawn? Yeah, black took the pawn, and correctly so. You can take the pawn. And now knight f3, still part of the preparation. Yeah, look, Carlsen has spent 10 minutes. Yeah, he's quite often, they say, this guy, he's not knowing any theory. That's not true. He just doesn't go to main path all of the time. He has his ideas, but he mixes it with some unconventional openings here and there. And frankly, sometimes I think he forgets stuff. If I'm so, I mean, what was this game 1 against Arnold? But what I'm trying to say is that it is a mixed bag. Sometimes you really don't know what Carlsen is doing in the opening, and you ask yourself, did he really study this opening? But he has his novelties and ideas, and this is one of them. Yeah, he played this quickly, and now it's Kramnik to solve this over the board, and it's not easy at all. White is threatening the c4 move here. And this is not a very intuitive plan, a5 and then back. Yeah, so c4 is the idea. And why did he jettison the a pawn in the first place? Because here the queen also has to keep an eye on this bishop. So without a5 being inserted, let's say, black could probably just move the queen somewhere, which is not possible here as the bishop hangs. Well, Kramnik defended well. He played b5, the, let's say, mechanical way to prevent c4. Now knight d4 was played, attacking the weakness that was created by the b5 move. Yeah, and now we come to a pretty mysterious situation, because now Kramnik went bishop c7 after very long thought. And it's quite strange. I read that he said in the press conference that he was miscalculating things here on more than one occasion. And looking at this move, this is very believable. The thing is that if he would have played bishop b7 now, the game would have been really balanced. White doesn't have anything better than taking on b5 and grabbing this pawn back. And here black has no problem whatsoever. He can play, let's say, a6 and bishop here for this idea, or he can also just drop this back and place the bishop on his, or one of his best diagonals. Black has the bishop pair to compensate for the slight weakness of the IQP here on d5. This is quite clearly okay for black. And the problem is probably not that Kramnik didn't see that. He certainly saw that, but he thought that bishop c7 is probably a more ambitious or more interesting move, and he went for that. And it seems, quite frankly, that the move is not working. It is very complicated from a tactical point of view, but it seems that it's simply not working. Yeah, Carlsen took this pawn. Yeah, on c6. Queen d6, that much was clear. And now g6, g3, I'm sorry. Yeah, queen h2 was the point. Yeah, now we see the problems there. Yeah, there's quite a lot of stuff hanging. If black, well, black cannot move the knight. Let's start like that. It's in the pin. If you take here, bishop d5 is hitting. But the knight is hanging. What exactly are you playing? He went bishop b7. That was planned. Bishop to f4. That's very strong. And queen c6 now was played after some hesitation. It seems that one of the things that Kramnik did not evaluate correctly was the move queen d7. Here, and this apparently was pointed out by Carlsen in the press conference, so he had seen this. This can be answered by the very strong move c4. That's really a nice move. Yeah, attacking with the pawn. And something like, let's say, bishop takes cb5 is excellent for white. Those lines are not so easy to see. Now this is protected and you still get the knight back. A very nice position for white. After c4, black is pretty much busted. Yeah, he can try this, but after queen c4, white is again very much better. Yeah, it's just a case where black is really badly coordinated. Let's say something like this. Yeah, and now rook d8. Knight b7 is straight away losing. Yeah, black is in trouble, really big trouble here. And Kramnik probably miscalculates something here. I think this is what he said. He intended to play queen to d7. Yeah, which is a funny move in its own right. Yeah, I mean, this is in fact quite okay for black. It's very tricky, all of that, but it didn't work due to c4. Yeah, ultimately he decided to play this, and after bishop takes here, yeah, he basically has to sacrifice now. Yeah, if he goes, let's say he plays queen here, then this is the problem. Yeah, rook covers, and this is far too much. Threatening rook a7, yeah, and so on. White is just steamrolling here. Very nice. It's quite interesting, yeah, how quickly black's position is going down. He tried rook e1 check. Funny tactic. Of course not this now, as queen d5 gets really ugly for white. You can just about save the game with queen e4, but of course king h2 is the move. Yeah, keeping this intact. After rook d1, bishop c6, white is winning far too much material. So he gave the queen with queen takes d5. Rook takes, and rook d1. Yeah, very important. Trading off this active piece. There's no alternative here. Yeah, and now the problem is that, well, from a material point of view, this is not enough. Yeah, there's bishop and rook against the queen. And the second thing is black is not very well coordinated. Yeah, his pieces, his bishops, they don't have stable squares. And white is, at the moment, it looks like the queen is back home on d1, but it is actually quite active. It can jump to d5 at the right moment or gets activated on the king side. We see that happening quite quickly here with this move. After this, if black takes here, for example, now queen b5 is a very strong intermediate move. No, the queen is just too strong here. Bishop b6 was played, and now bishop e3, trading off one of the bishops. Yeah, rook d1, trying for some kind of counterplay. The problem is that you cannot even keep the a pawn if you do this. Queen e7, you're even losing more stuff. Yeah, sometimes you can really fight with rook and bishop against queen if you have some kind of fortress, let's say. Yeah, if you imagine just for a moment, let's say white's pawn would be on b4, yeah, and the bishop on c4, where it protects b5, they protect each other, it protects f7. This would be quite reasonable to trying to draw. But here white does not have any problems in exposing the problems in black's camp. It's just not coordinated well. g4, not getting checkmated on h1. And now white is invading. Yeah, this is a very simple technical task for someone like Carlsen. You can push the whole position, let's forward step by step.
Check.
Don't need to look at this in much detail. It's funny that the white king is playing a role here in the attack. The only neat little thing to mention is this f5 takes, and now queen g3 and g5. That's quite neat. Yeah, the f5 pawn is used as a shield, that white's king is safe, and here white is winning with a checkmating attack. Queen h4, h6, g7 is the mating pattern that black cannot really prevent. So a very nice win here for Carlsen, this time based on good preparation. It didn't lead to an objective advantage, as we see from the line bishop b7 instead of bishop to c7, but it seems that Kramnik was irritated, and yeah, well, it's a case where after losing 2 games, probably you're not in a super great state of mind. Yeah, this is the first time, it seems, that Kramnik lost 3 games in a row in classical tournament chess. At least nobody could come up with a comparative result, a comparable result in the past. He probably lost 3 in Blitz or Rapid or something like that, but in classical chess that's unheard of. Yeah, he really he started well with a nice early win in the first round, but now 3 losses in a row places him near the bottom of the tournament table. Yeah, and yesterday we learned that Kramnik declined the invitation to play in the new started tournament series. What is this called? The Grand Tour or something. I don't have the term right. I think this tournament series consisting of Norway Chess, the Singfield Cup, and the London Chess Classics. He declined the invitation to play this series, which seems a bit puzzling to me. Maybe he really intends to retire at age 40, as he said. And he turns 40 in June, I think, this year, or in the summer, let's say. Okay, we will see. Okay, so only 1 game left, and this is Vishy Anand. It's Mickey Adams, the 2 A players here, yeah, Anand, Adams. And Vishy's got white. What is he playing? C4. Aha. So he played e4 earlier, not his d4 that he was so successful with in recent events, and now he plays c4. Yeah, versatility is so important in modern chess. We get a very unexpected opening, actually. e5, g3, c6, and now Vishy goes for knight f3. Very interesting. This has gained a little bit of popularity, this way of playing. In general, white tried in recent years to play d4 against this line, but it seems that this has gotten a bit out of fashion. I'm not quite sure why. Yeah, white always seemed to score quite well. Maybe it is due to e4. I'm not sure. Well, knight f3 is interesting, as Vishy played, but it's not a very common move. Attacking e5 and pushes knight to d4. And now this was played by Adams. This is the prescribed method against this, but recently white has, it seems, as I found a couple of games there of this line, white has gained some ground there. Interesting now, knight to c2, in knight c3 with a tempo. Queen h5. And now knight e3. Yeah, it's a very unconventional type of position, but interesting. White tries to attack the e4 pawn, this exposed pawn, while black tries to prove that his gained space, he gained quite some space there, that his gained space is worth something as well. And probably it is about balance, but it is an interesting tense situation. Bishop c5 was played, and after queen c2, Adams took on e3. Yeah, quite a unconventional decision, but he wants to simply get rid of this knight now to being able to cover his e4 pawn. Yeah, this stronghold pawn is something that white wants to attack and black wants to keep. It's interesting. This is actually a known position, but certainly both players, I think they were just playing over the board. I found a sample game here, a correspondence game actually, where a white player went for b4 now in this situation, which does seem quite logical. Yeah, why not b4? But Arnold is going for b3. Why not? Yeah, you have to fianchetto anyway, and it's questionable if you really want to put it out 2 squares, yeah, and loosen your structure. I think that here, now Adams went queen to e6. That's an interesting moment here, because after queen e6, I can show you what Vishy did first. After queen e6, now Anand took a very interesting decision. But a decision that when you see the resulting position, you probably will agree that this is a pretty clear case where white has compensation. He took on the f5. He just sacrificed this exchange and got the pawn now. So let us add up. White has 2 excellently placed bishops there. He's got a big pawn center. It's far back, but it is due to the state of being far back. It's also very flexible. Yeah, white can really choose what setup he likes, like d3, e4 later, d4, e4 for the full center, or keeping them back for the moment. He also has the f-file for the other rook to join, and yeah, that is pretty clear compensation. It's a question though if Adams should have prevented it. He could have prevented it. If he plays bishop g6 now, I know it looks a bit tricky to stay in this diagonal here, in this diagonal, but there's no real problem with that. He could have started with bishop g6 and then play queen e6 back to avoid this. The question is, was this really needed to avoid this? I'm not sure. I don't think that white has really more than the exchange here, or more than enough compensation for the exchange. But what I'm pretty confident about is that this position is simpler to play for white. This much is very much, this is clear. The next thing is also a bit debatable what he does now. He played queen g6, and yeah, I was thinking getting out of this might be interesting. Getting like queen e6, something like that is a pretty logical line. That this might be interesting. In the game he got double pawns on the f-file, and I thought maybe this is better, but well, look at this. White has a good compensation here, yeah? So very nicely played by Arnold, getting an imbalance in the game, and this is the first start of the first step with trying to play for a win. You need to get some kind of imbalance there. Interesting. Yeah. This was played though, and after this, now it gets difficult for black to avoid the double pawn on the f-file. Rook here, and this was played.
Check.
And e4. That's interesting, eh? It looks like white is putting his own bishop passive, but that's not the case. The bishop can always be activated later by bishop h3 at the right moment. What white does is he sets up this stable pawn center that also limits black's rooks considerably. Black's rooks have the black rooks, it's easier to pronounce, have no direct targets. Yeah, those pawns are, I mean, as safe as they come, yeah, absolutely protected. It's difficult for black to find any direct counterplay. However, it doesn't seem like it should be terrible for him. It's difficult to play though. It's really difficult to play. And there are one or two spots where I wasn't really sure if this is the right one. I'm going to show you one or two key moments. Yeah, white has time. He improved a little bit here. And now Adams plays the move h5. At first this looks like a blunder. Yeah, rook f5. Why is he blundering this pawn? I mean, of course, he did not... I really don't think he overlooked rook f5. That's quite clear. But he wanted to give up this pawn for a counterplay. That he gets. He gets play. But the question is if it is enough. Yeah, black did not need to do that. He also could have played, I don't know, just sit there, rook e7 or whatever, and ask white to do something. White has ideas though, yeah, bishop to f5, for example, queen c1, rook h4. Yeah, all this is coming naturally to white. It's much easier for white to play. However, if you give it to a computer, it doesn't see anything great for white happening in the foreseeable future. So it's a debatable decision if you want to really give away the pawn or not. He sacrificed this, and Vishy took the pawn. This was the idea. He wanted to invade with the queen and start this counterplay. That's a very human decision. Yeah, why not? You want some play on your own or for yourself. But the thing is, it doesn't seem to lead to much. Black gets this in, but what now? Yeah, the white queen and rook are still putting up this pressure on f6. Went rook d6, rook f1, a5. Yeah, this is all okay, I think, and still quite okay for black. I mean, he's not lost here. Rook d8. A3. Yeah, the next move, however, is probably, or let's say around here, there is a problem. I mean, instead of b4, he probably should have tried something else. Queen d4 maybe. This has a tactical problem. I mean, this is the problem. Yeah, queen f6. And the real problem is not that, I mean, the pawn can be defended, yeah, no problem there, yeah, like this, for example. But now white gets the bishop to c4, and this is a huge deal. The bishop on c4 is very nicely positioned. It defends b3. It is defended by both pawns here, very stable, and it looks at the crucial f7 pawn. And now white gets the play on the f file. He probably should have played, instead of b4, some protection move. I didn't even write down an alternative there. That's sloppy. Yeah, maybe queen d4 or something. I mean, I prefer white with the two pawns. White has the better chances, but I mean, once this is in, I think white is much better. Yeah, and close. I don't think you can defend this position. So it looks very tricky here. And now the white queen starts his invasion. Yeah, white has time. He has all the play. Black can just sit. Yeah, and we have attacking ideas with g5. Yeah, look how strong this bishop is. That's the important deal. Yeah, g takes f6 is also the threat. So Adams didn't see anything better than that.
Check.
And here the h-pawn is the decisive factor. Still, black's rooks are not coordinated well. Yet only lasted a couple of more moves. And here Adams resigned. Yeah, why in particular? Let's have a look.
Check. Check.
Check. And, my mouse. Well, there is the rook going down. Yeah, so this was the round. Vishy Anand with another win. So he's now trailing the world champion. Carlsen, of course, at the moment with a terrific score. He's got a +4 score, if I'm not mistaken. Getting to a 3000 performance, magic 3000. Vichy is having a great tournament as well with a +2. Very nice, performance. Clearly showing that he's still in competition for being a serious challenger to the world champion after those 2 matches. Okay, great. I hope you enjoyed the coverage here of the round 7. I'll be back for round 8 and 9, of course, though I have to warn you that probably round 9 will come a little bit late, only on Monday, I guess, as I have a very important game myself on Sunday. Okay, well, thanks for watching.